Right? That's what I heard.
Hello, everybody. We are so excited. Our crew has been chatting and warming up behind the scenes. We are so pumped for tonight's show. Welcome, everyone, to Optimizing Your Success. I am Dr. Ruth Gotian, and I am here with the high achievers from the Mentor Project and a very special guest all the way from the Pentagon. We are going to do quick introductions so that you know who we are. Every week we bring you high achievers. I study these high achievers. Many of them, you will hear that they work their way into my upcoming book, but these are the people who have reached incredible success. There is so much that we can learn from them. So as our high achievers introduce themselves, if you are watching us live on any of the social media channels, let us know who you are and where you are watching us from. We love to know where people are watching us from. So please introduce yourself. Who are you? Who are these great high achievers here today? Dr. Bruce Wiley.
Hi, Ruth. Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Bruce Wiley. I'm a professor. I do computer modeling. I'm also a health journalist, and I cover health and healthcare for Forbes.
Love it. Thank you. And I am loving all of your recent articles. Excuse me. We give Bruce challenges every week to add keywords that we hear during the show. We challenge him to put them into his articles. And so far he has met the challenges. We may need to raise our bar. So go ahead and read those. Another Forbes writer, another physician, Dr. Allison Escalante.
Hi, Ruth. It's always fun to be here. Yes, I'm a pediatrician, an adjunct professor at Rush Medical School. I am a contributor to Forbes on the science of human performance. And in honor of Bruce, I got the word avocado toast in one of my upcoming articles for Forbes. I also write for Psychology Today about life and the culture of anxiety, which is what I call the should storm. You should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't do that other thing, and whatever you're doing, it's never good enough. So I'm all about seeing if we can find a way to live for real and enjoy it without all of the pressure.
Love it. Thank you. And congratulations on your new furry cat that you just had join your family.
Yeah, maybe Skittles will make an appearance later.
Love it. Thank you. And we're having quite the military representation today. JJ Snow.
Hey, Ruth, it's great to be here. JJ Snow, I'm the Chief Technology Officer for AFWERX, the innovation arm of the United States Air Force, and I'm also the CTO for the Mentor Project. This is going to be a fun night. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And it's through JJ that we met today's guest, who you will meet in a moment. Janice Lynch.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you for having me as well. I'm Janice Lynch, CEO of Hearing Access and Innovations. I'm a former Forbes writer, and I write for Medium and Thrive Global. I'm also traveling to every country in the world, and although not during the pandemic, and that's who I am.
Awesome. Thank you. And Janice is the kind of person, if you need anything done, you have to reach out to Janice because she will get it done. Now, our special guest for tonight, who has done, I have to tell you, get an A+ for the prep work today, James Hondo Guerts. Tell us who you are and why do you think we're all excited that you're here?
Hey, Ruth. Good to see everybody out there. I'm Hondo, big guy with a big neck, kind of practitioner in program management and getting things out to our sailors and Marines and airmen and soldiers. So kind of a mutt, spent time in the Air Force in uniform, another decade and plus in special ops, and then the last couple of years in the Navy. So all about leading teams, getting stuff out there to the field and helping out everybody however I can. So good to be with you all.
Thank you. And what is it that you're doing now? What's your title?
Well, I'm currently performing the duties of the Undersecretary of the Navy. So kind of number 2 person in the Navy.
Love it. Thank you. And that's the Marine Corps and the Navy.
It
right?
is both, Department of the Navy. So get both of them. So it's quite an honor. And
love it. How many people in your portfolio?
a million people, probably about $220 billion a year. So pretty big.
$220 billion a year.
Yep.
Wow. So we've had a number of conversations, and the way that we met is through JJ Snow, right? She knows that I talk to high achievers all the time, and she knew that I was looking to talk to some people from the military for the book. And she said, "Oh, you got to talk to Hondo." And sure enough, we connected and we hit it off right away. And there were so many things that you said that I said, hold it, remember that, because you're going to need to repeat the story. And one of the things I want to know is you have so many people that you are in charge of and so much money that you are in charge of. How do you think that you do it extremely well? So much so that you were, and excuse me if I'm not using the right terminology, but you were nominated and then confirmed when there was a Republican president and then again with a Democratic president. So you found a way to keep everyone happy. How do you think you do that?
I don't know about keeping everybody happy, but I think, a big piece of it, I think any achiever would tell you, it's probably three things that have helped me along the way. I'm very curious, so I like to explore things. I try and be humble so that I can learn from everybody. But then I like being bold and acting. And so, many of us know people who are good at maybe one or two of those. I've learned over the years if you can kind of keep that mindset and keep fresh, then it's amazing what you can do when you inspire teams. It's funny, we were talking, one of the things, you have a big organization, and I think as leaders, sometimes we can get caught up putting ourselves on top of the organization. And JJ will tell you, any org chart I have, you'll find me at the bottom of the organization. Because I really think, the leadership piece is supporting everybody, enabling them, when needed, getting the 18-inch neck out to remove obstacles. But I think, trying to live that servant leadership model, again, I'm not perfect. I certainly learning every day, but if you can empower, inspire people, it's amazing what they can accomplish and how you could be happy doing it.
I love it. And I remember when you told me that you flip the org chart upside down. So I thought that was incredible. What made you decide to do that? How did you even think to do that?
So one of my traits is I'm not very smart, but I'm a hell of a poacher. And I actually walked in another organization, a lower level organization, and a young Air Force captain had done that with his fairly small team. I said, that's an awesome idea, because it really gets to that point, I think, of, leaders are there to create foundation for the teams. They report to the team. They're accountable to the teams they're entrusted to lead. And then I think if you get in that mindset, you can avoid some of the trappings that you can have in senior leadership positions and confusing what you're really there for. And then I think when folks see that you're there honestly to support them, they feel safe. This culture of creating a culture of safety, and I'm sure some of the other folks here on the line can talk about that. If you can create a culture of safety where folks can bring whatever they have, their talent, their ideas to the table, then you don't, as a leader, have to think of all of them, right? And if everybody's relying on me on coming up with all the great ideas, then we're in trouble. My job is really to create, I would say, that culture where folks feel safe bringing ideas. So somebody like a JJ can bring a crazy idea. We can toss it around. Some may be good ones, some may need to be shaped, but we're talking about the idea. We're not really worrying about where it comes from. And so trying to do that over years and years, it's easy to say. It can be hard to do in day-to-day practice, but if you can get it working the way you want to, it's amazing how much you can keep learning, because then you inspire that, engagement from your team. And then I'm excited every day learning from everybody. Walk down the hallway and the secretary next door will have a great idea. And that's kind of how we keep things flowing. Otherwise, you get caught up micromanaging, and at some point you can't scale that, and you're going to cut off the great ideas.
I love that. And I think you've earned your nickname as the mayor of the Pentagon. As someone, you really do leadership by walking around, don't you?
Yeah, and I think I had an old boss that says you can't surge trust, right? And so it's really hard to create a relationship and exercise that at a point of crisis. And so a lot of and again, it's got to be genuine curiosity, genuine engagement, genuine humility to learn, and not not get caught up that you know it all and whatnot. And then again, if you can do that, and back to this culture of safety, then folks will come to you with great ideas, and you'll pick up things, and you'll never know when you might need that relationship and how you can help folks out. And it's some of the best ideas in the world have come from the most peculiar places that I would have never thought to have sought out or asked. But that's really where again, great ideas aren't limited to different boxes on an org chart.
So I find that brilliant. But I'm curious though, how do people know that what you are portraying is actually this safe place to come up with ideas that will not be shut down, and that you're open to all these new ideas? How do you get the word out about that?
Well, I mean, JJ can. She's always got the ability to throw the BS flag if I'm bathing in my own bathwater. I think again, it's about that. The two words I find really effective are bold humility. And folks think those are actually, two sides of a coin, because they confuse humility with timidness or hesitancy or whatnot. Humility to me isn't, not thinking, less of yourself, just thinking of yourself less. Right. And so if you can kind of, I don't wear ties in the Pentagon. That for a senior leader in the Pentagon, number 2 in the Navy, goes against every culture and tradition. I come into work in PT clothes because all that is to break down this idea of, different levels, and to create this condition where, again, it's the power of the idea, not who brings the idea forward. And when you can get that, and it's hard, and it takes 1,000 million little things to do, but if you can really try and do that every day, one, you'll get great ideas, and 2, folks will, as a leader, you unlock what I call the discretionary effort. I can force an effort, right, by compliance, and I can measure that, that they follow what I told them to do. But that's far less impactful than if you can provide vision and intent, and then inspire and empower. And as long as you can protect folks so they understand the right and left limits, then you unlock that discretionary output, where you're not asking somebody to stay late. They stay however late it takes to get something done. You don't have to ask for volunteers for the Christmas party. It just happens. And we've all been on those kinds of teams where everybody puts their discretionary effort into it. And that to me is kind of the sign when you've got it working right, kind of like in the boat when you get swing. That's when you kind of get that clicking. But it's all about, to me, cultural safety. And as a senior leader, understanding you'll take some risk by unlocking that, but the rewards will greatly outweigh the risks.
So how do you think people come to trust you, Hondo?
I don't know. Ask JJ.
Hey, JJ.
Hey,
we want the inside scoop.
I've got some great examples. The first one that comes to mind is a joint mentoring session that Hondo and I did while I was still down at Special Operations Command. And we had a bunch of young lieutenants that wanted to talk about leadership, mentorship, talk about career paths. And one of the best questions that we got, I thought, was one of the LTs looked at Hondo and he said, well, what happens if you and JJ have a disagreement? And we both started laughing because it has happened. We've been on different sides of an issue, and he pushes me hard to convince him on topics because he needs to know if he's going to make a decision. I've done all my fact checking. I've got everything lined up. It's good to go. But we don't always agree. And the answer isn't always yes. And so we actually sat there and talked through that. Afterwards, I had several of these young officers come up to me and say, that was the coolest thing ever. We've never had a senior leader and a mid-level leader come together and actually share how they can have a disagreement and move through it positively. And that increased that safety, that sense of, hey, it's okay to talk in this space, and it's a friendly space, and I'm going to be heard, I'm going to be recognized and appreciated for my comments. That's the kind of leadership that brings people into that space. And the other thing was, I was one of the first ones that wanted to bring hackers into SoftWorks. And oh my gosh, SoftWorks was the innovation arm of Special Operations Command, and people were not happy about that. They were worried, what happens? What if we get hacked? What if? And Hondo said, no, go ahead, bring them in. Let's see what they've got, what they can do. That in turn launched a series of partnerships. The last set of meetings we had was with U.S. Army Special Operations Command, where we actually had hackers sit down with key cyber planners and take them through the technology, where it was today, where it's going to be in the next 18 to 36 months, and areas that they needed to pay attention to, and some of the subtle nuances that they were missing because they don't live and breathe that every day. But those discussions wouldn't have happened, again, without that safe space and without the leadership, Hondo's leadership, there to provide the top cover to say, yeah, let's try this out.
So Ruth, one of the things I tell folks, they're worried about making decisions. And I say, as long as you don't, shoot somebody or get a DWI, anything you can do, I can undo in 10 minutes or less. So don't worry about it, right? It's a little bit of this, I entrust you to make decisions. And if you happen to make one that isn't what I would have done, then I'll work with you and reverse it. It's amazing. In my career, I have never had to undo a decision. But I've heard a lot more decisions that folks would. Now, again, that's all about, as a leader, creating intent. Here's what I intend to do. Here are the parameters that I can operate in. If you want to operate outside those parameters, then you need to come see me. The second thing is, I like asking questions. I don't like giving direction. And again, I think—
Tell me more about that.
Well, as a leader, if all you're doing is giving direction, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, a couple things happen. First off, you're relying on your brain housing group, which is, by definition limited to only your experiences, only your likes or dislikes. Secondly, nobody learns when you give direction. I don't learn, and the person doing the task doesn't learn. And so I find by asking questions, sometimes I'll learn even when I didn't think there was something for me to learn. And two, folks will feel a lot more safe. And then you're mentoring in situ as you're going. You're mentoring as you go. You're not, okay, let's do a mentoring session and sit down. The third little trick I do is I call them reverse mentors. I pick some of the most junior folks in an organization to be my mentors. Not the most senior, not my peer, not my boss or boss's boss. And again, I learned tons of things by having somebody brand new to the organization as a mentor. Two, I can teach them how to mentor as they're mentoring me. And then three, again, it creates this safe zone that, hey, even the boss is still learning, right? Even the boss is open to opinion from anywhere you come in. So again, a lot of these things, they're not breakthroughs. They're not, something you'd write in a book. The trick is, as a leader, I think, remembering them and creating the space for them as you get busy, and thinking about it proactively, because each little thing kind of seems small, but over time it creates, again, this culture of safety. And I can't express that enough. We talked about anxiety. We've talked about, the should, or the I'm worried what somebody else thinks about my idea, so I'm not going to say anything about it. And when you can get past that, really remarkable things can happen. And again, I'm not super smart. I had to learn it to survive, to get the organizational output I needed for the time I wanted to allot to things. And so I was just fortunate to learn it early in life.
Well, you know what I find so interesting, and we've spoken a few times, and every time we talk, I think I can't be surprised anymore, but yet I am. And the other night we spoke, I was literally cooking dinner, and you called me. I think you were heading home or heading somewhere for the weekend. And somehow we got into this conversation about mentoring someone who's junior, but then that reverse mentoring as well. And I thought your idea of how you do it was so refreshing, that when you have these big meetings or these big travel things that are happening, you do something pretty special, don't you?
Yeah, so we were talking about, anytime I'm going on the road, if I'm going to go, as you might expect in this position, there's a lot of interesting things going on all around the Navy, and I'm fortunate enough to go around, and we always try and bring a junior person along for the trip, somebody who's an up-and-comer, somebody working hard, and not only for their benefit, which some folks would say, okay, that's nice, you're thinking of them. But to me, they provide great benefit because they've got unfiltered eyes and nobody's paying attention to them, right? They're all paying attention to me. They're trying to tell me what I think I want to hear and all those kinds of things. And so when you bring this junior person along, when we fly back on the airplane or wherever we're coming back from, I sit down and talk with them, do some mentoring as we do it. What did you see? What did you think? Why do you think that person said this? What will you think this person was saying? What did you notice going on in the room when they were all talking to me? And again, that provides me great additional observation and insights, completely unfiltered, because particularly if they're very junior, they're not there to try and tell me what I want to hear. They're just going to tell me what they think, and so it's a great win-win. And so I'm a kind of abundance thinker. I look for these areas where abundance exists. We just haven't thought of tapping into it. And that's just another way that we do that. I create rotations where junior folks from all across the Navy can come work in the office for a couple of weeks, learn how the Pentagon works, get to see how senior decision makers make decisions, go sit in meetings or hear from other folks they wouldn't, have to be in their career 20 years to be able to see. And again, that not only gives me great observations, but then as I talk about intent, they take that back out into the field and help us scale and transform the organization in the direction we're headed.
I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I love how you bring people into the Pentagon early on so that they get these opportunities. Now, one of the things that you mentioned about always learning and being curious, that's a sign of a high achiever. High achievers, no matter what accolades they have, no matter what degrees they've earned, they never rest on their laurels and say, I know it all, there's nothing more to learn. They will actually constantly learn. They'll learn in informal ways, and they'll learn from everyone around them, those who are senior to them, junior to them, and their peers. So I loved all of these examples that you're telling us about. Now, I do want to tell you, Hondo, you have a lot of fans who are watching. They're putting in these comments saying how happy they are that you're here. If you guys have questions for Hondo, the Undersecretary of the Navy, by all means, put them in the chat and he will do his best to answer them. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about all those things that are behind you on the wall. We're getting quite a number of questions. Now, you're the number 2 person in the Navy. You have a lot of authority and responsibility, but that came after a long, decorated career in uniform. Can you tell us a little bit about what that career was that led to where you are now?
So maybe two things, a little bit tying back to your earlier question. I'm a positively discontent person. And I don't think of it as high achiever, just, I'm a pretty positive person. I'm excited about what I get to do. I'm honored what I get to do, but I'm never content we're doing enough, individually, organizationally enough. And that I think has helped power through. So yeah, I was trying to find a way to pay for going to college. I got an Air Force scholarship. Went to Lehigh and then did engineering there, and suddenly got invited to build great weapon systems for the Air Force for a career, 20-something years doing that, and got to work on building X airplanes and satellites and all sorts of other fun stuff. And then came into special operations community right after 9/11 and over the time there, became essentially the Q guy for James Bond. So responsible for the team building all the weapons and all the things for all the special ops folks. And as you said, came into the Navy. And so a lot of just incredible people that I've gotten a chance to learn from and work with and support all through the different years, and then the last 4 years with the Navy building ships. And so what that would also tell you maybe is you don't necessarily have to be an expert in one thing all your career to be able to have an impact. In fact, what I've found is with the right mindset, you can actually have a huge impact doing different things. And innovation to me tends to be, when you put two things together that didn't naturally or never thought of going together again. My favorite example is the artificial Christmas tree actually was invented by a toilet bowl brush company. And if you think of an artificial Christmas tree, it's actually just a toilet bowl brush cut in half and put into a tree. And so the curiosity and boldness of acting, right? You can take the things we learned in the special operations about how to get things downrange fast, how to employ a diverse set of people, from hackers to inventors to other folks, and then think differently about how to build ships in the Navy. And again, to me, it's more about mindset. You certainly have to have expertise, and you can leverage that expertise. But most of the innovative people I know really get there because they bring a different perspective, either to an old problem or new perspectives to new problems. And so, yes, over time, I've had the opportunity to learn most from great folks. My favorite 3 lessons come from an old sergeant major of mine, and he said the secret of life comes down to three things. Always shoot from the high ground. So, keep reminding yourself, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it for the team? Are you, not doing it just for your own gratitude or whatever? So all the things about, is your intent pure? Is your focus pure? So always shoot from the high ground. The second thing was always improve your fighting position, right? So never get complacent, never be satisfied, always be working to improve yourself, your team. And then the third is don't shoot on other people's targets. Stay focused. And while you want to be curious, you don't want to get unfocused and distracted. And so a couple of these things here in the wall are from some great warriors like that who have taught me things over the years that have kept me out of trouble and facing in the right direction. I
love it. Which is your favorite medal from that shadow box behind you?
Oh, I don't know. The one there's one, the SOCOM medal. These are pretty special one from the Special Operations Command. And so, it's the thing I liked in the Special Operations community is we used to say, don't judge your value by the proximity to the final objective, and that it takes a whole team to achieve an outcome. And while, there's folks who are, at the final objective, it took a whole team to get them there, and it takes a whole team to get them back there safe. And so there's some, special memories in each one of those things up there.
Love it. Catherine said she loved that you are never complacent. That came in through the chat. Love it. Thank you. So you work hard, like really hard. I mean, you put in long hours. I was getting emails from you before the sun came out, and I would get emails from you after the sun went down. But then you know how to break it down. And Dr. Allison Escalante is always telling us, right? We need to de-stress to lower our anxiety. And you told me you have a special way of doing that.
Yeah, a couple different things. I'm a little like a tempo trainer. I surge hard and then recover, surge hard and then recover. I have found over the years, if you just grind and grind, you'll keep working the hours, but your output will go down. And so, a couple different ways of doing that. My wife and I enjoy it. We have a cabin out in the mountains we try and get out to. I call it chainsaw therapy. So I'm not happier than with a chainsaw and an axe in my hand, JJ see me taking a selfie with a chainsaw in my hand. So
Should we be scared?
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. I'm like, please don't cut off a limb.
But finding those things where you can really just kind of unplug. And then the other thing I found during a workday, what I found is kind of the 85-15 rule for me is finding those tasks that are energy producing tasks. So a lot of tasks are energy draining. We all have to do them. But some things are energy producing. So the other day I got one of our young enlisted members. We have a way of giving them a promotion on the spot if they're a super performer. And so we called her in. She thought we were going to do a listening session about diversity. And on the spot, we were able to give her another stripe and promote her. To me, those don't take energy. Those give me energy. So
how come we don't have that in every other industry?
Yeah,
promotion. I want that.
Yeah, it would be. It's really remarkable. But if you can find those things that give you whatever those are, it could be mentoring, it could be any sort of thing. I try and find those that really get me power, psyched up, and maybe 10 to 15%. I try and plug that into my calendar on the front end, and then work everything else around it. I find if I try and do it after I put everything else on the calendar, you never get to it, because there is an art to staying fresh as a senior leader. We're all in these grinding jobs and with lots of responsibility, like everybody else here on the call. And if you don't really think about freshness and staying fresh, you'll be busy and you'll put the hours in, but your output will start waning over time. And so, that's just one of the ways I really do it. The other thing is, I try and have, one thing I'm trying to reinvent within the lifelines I own. So something I can reinvent on my own, something that I'm a part of something larger than my organization, get involved in something, broader than just my current responsibilities. And then I always have like one thing for myself. And that's a way I've also tried to keep things growing and try not to get stuck or stale. But it's a real challenge.
So, Hondo, there's with all the Zooms going on, there's this thing called Room Rater where they rate your room, right? Out of a scale of, was it 10 or 100? Allison, you there? How would you rate what he just said to decompress?
I mean, I think it's great. It got me thinking about what's turning into a series I'm writing now, just multiple articles on daydreaming and the science on daydreaming. And I've been a big believer in daydreaming my whole life, and I've been extensively criticized for doing it. Not least in middle school when I was daydreaming instead of listening to the teacher. But it's not just about de-stressing. That puts it almost in a negative. It's that we have all of this capacity in our mental function that we don't access most of the time because we're so task-oriented. And if we really want to make connections, like I love what Hondo said about, that's exactly how I define innovation myself, is taking two things that don't look related and then noticing that connection and putting them together. And we are far more likely to do that when we're activating our imagination centers, our default mode network, which is what turns on when we're not busy working on a task. So yeah, it's less about like de-stressing, although that's important. It's more about taking time to activate those other substantial parts of our brain that we used to use when we were kids. And then we get trained to stop using because it's a waste of time. But it's not. It's where really fantastic creativity happens.
Yeah, Allison, I couldn't agree with you more. For me, it's music. And those who will follow me on LinkedIn, I put a music post out every day since COVID started. Because for me, if I turn on a good song, again, it's as you say, you almost detach. And then, a really good friend of mine who's incredibly academically gifted will go, where in the heck did you come up with that idea? Where did you read it? I'm like, I don't know, I was listening to an old Jeff Beck album, and it just popped in my brain, because you're saying when I can kind of detune and from the day-to-day noise and kind of let the brain kind of free flow, connections happen that are remarkable. And if I think about thinking, I can't get them. Right?
Well, that's right, because we know that this happens when we're slightly distracted with something else. So I find, for instance, when I'm trying to solve a really difficult diagnosis and I can't find it, I actually go and see another patient, or even better, I just do really boring paperwork, and the ideas will come. Or when I'm stuck on some writing, I will go and fold laundry or take a walk with the dog. So you're mildly distracted with something else. And that's when those extra networks really turn on and work on the problem in the background.
Catherine's loving how we're infusing science into this conversation. And that's what I love about our high achievers, is that we bring in people from different fields, and you never know how these things are going to blend together. I mean, last week we had Janice and her hearing advocacy and the CEO of Build-A-Bear Workshop, two completely different things that were joined together. And this week we're doing military and science. So I love how that all comes together. And if you don't follow Hondo, I recommend that you do, because literally you get to add to your playlist. And you've got quite the eclectic musical taste there, Hondo.
Yeah, you're only seeing a bit of it. And so, one fun thing I do as a leader, which, again, I'm sure I stole from somewhere and can't remember who to credit to. The number one performance measurement I put on all my direct reports is they have to have at least one major initiative that's got a 50% chance or higher of failing. And
That's fascinating.
It's amazing. We're talking here 2- and 3-star admirals who have had very successful careers. And it's amazing how you see people's minds try and get around, well, you're asking me to fail. No, I'm not asking you to fail. I'm asking you to try something that has a high rate of failure. And then success isn't whether it works or not, it's whether you can tell me and how fast can we learn. And so it's remarkable when you start aligning the incentives with the output you're trying to get. And if we want an organization that learns how to take risks and do things differently, but all we do is measure success, gee whiz, all we're going to get is low risk activities. And so again, imagine that listening to some funk music song somewhere in when my mind was spinning, but little tricks like that as a leader. And then back to this, well, you want me to fail? Yeah, I want you to learn. I don't want you to fail, I want you to learn fast. Goes all the way back to this kind of create a culture of safety, because yes, I actually want you to fail so you can learn in certain circumstances, which then says, oh, well, if that's okay, then I had this other great idea, but I was afraid to try it. So now that I know you value trying new things, and that's how you're going to measure me as a leader, wow, I'm more apt to try new things. So it's an interesting technique that's worked fairly well.
I got chills. I got chills.
Well, I don't want you to try to 50% fail in the medical field. So.
You can't. Yeah. It has to be about really minimizing your chance of errors. But I love that. Like setting people a task with a 50% chance of failure. I'm going to do that to my kids tomorrow.
It's high risk, high reward, right? I mean, this is what pushes science now. They're really doing high risk, high rewards. Bruce, you know about this.
Yeah.
Bruce, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was daydreaming about. I was daydreaming about toilet brushes. So sorry about that.
Talk about bringing in two things, right?
Yes, I'll never think of toilet brushes the same ever again.
Okay, so this is our challenge for the next Forbes article, Bruce. Yes. That's what you're going to have to put in.
Well, it's definitely true. I mean, one of the challenges with science, a lot of the incentives have gone towards, low risk and incremental change, and we really need to have a situation where risk is encouraged, because that's where the breakthroughs occurred. And as Hondo mentioned, a lot of the innovation comes from crossing disciplines. And a lot of the established silos that you see in not just in science, but many other areas, I think really decreases that opportunity for innovation. And you really want to kind of cross different disciplines, because those disciplines are artificial. Those barriers are artificial. And I really like what you said about, a culture of safety. When I think of that, I think of hedgehogs, because, hedgehogs sort of curl up when they're threatened, right? They curl up into balls, but then when they're relaxed, they kind of walk around, and that's when you really can see the innovation.
Hondo, there's one thing that you said to me about change. Do you remember this? So
the only person like change is a baby with a wet diaper. Is that what I said to you?
No. I think the reason people fear Janice so much, fear and respect her so much, is because she pushes change. She pushes change and she will not let it go. But people are afraid of change. People are afraid of upsetting the status quo. Do you remember how you told me you implement change? I thought it was brilliant.
I'm sure there's sort of lots of it. And one...
You're like, I'm sure I said something brilliant. I just don't remember what it is.
I think one, we all like to be the change agent. We hate to be the agent being changed.
Yeah.
And so one example we had in the Special Operations Command, right? We value adaptability. We value flexibility. And we wanted everybody to change jobs rather frequently. And what I found was all the junior force was being forced to change jobs, but the senior managers didn't. They just liked directing the change. So I brought in, if you can think of it in industry terms, as kind of all of my sector presidents and their deputies. And generally their deputies had been here for continuity for a long time. And with 5 minutes notice, I simultaneously changed all of them on the same day. And of course they were all, okay, why me? Why are you doing this? The world's going to end. I said, well, we can't expect folks at the lower levels to be doing something we're not willing to do. And I did it at a time, and the hardest part is the best time to change is when things are going really well.
Yeah.
Because that's when you've got actually the most buffer to make the change. So we were doing remarkably well. We were winning awards. We were supporting the guys and gals downrange. And it was absolutely the perfect time to change, because we did take probably a 10 to 15% performance bump for a couple of weeks. But then in 2 or 3 months, we were 30 to 40% higher performing. And then over about a 4-year period, we doubled output with half the staff. Because now suddenly, folks knew multiple jobs, and all the quirky things that happen in organizations who are static, there's the cliquey club, and somebody's undervalued, and they get siloed, suddenly gets shattered. And I did the same thing in the Navy. I simultaneously changed all of our senior civilians in our shipbuilding industry. Pulled the same book. And again, you would have thought the world was going to end for about 2 months. And then we were infinitely better. And so, you've got to force it though, right? Again, the only person that likes change.
But you make incremental changes, right? You can changes.
That, and then you've got to make, and then you've got to drive some, a little bit of a shock to the system as well. And again, you got to do it in a safe way and explain why. But you've also back to this 50% fail thing. If we're not trying hard enough to fail at some of the things we want to change, then we aren't trying hard enough. Because if we're 100% successful, we're probably really not changing, right? The analogy I use in the Navy is organizations are kind of like ships in the water, and that they grow barnacles. And you don't know where the barnacles come from. You never see a barnacle born. Barnacles have no natural enemies, and you can't feel each individual one attaching to your ship. But after a couple of years, you're going about half as fast. And the only way to get after them is a direct and violent action. You've got to scrape barnacles on the organization. And so we actually talk about it in that term. We talk about scraping barnacles. How are we going to really kind of rig for speed? But if you make that not a risk and not a secret and not in a smoky room, then you can really affect change. Another thing I do is anybody who builds a document, the Pentagon, lots of paper, right? If they're building
Shocking.
a paper or a document for me and they don't see the value of it, on the top they can write Deadpool. And if I get a document that says Deadpool on it, I either need to immediately direct that we no longer produce that report or document because nobody can see the value. Or if it's something that's valued, I have to write a note back to them and explain to them why what they're doing is important and how it ties into the mission. Because either case, if we're wasting energy, we should stop. If folks are doing something they don't understand the context, then we as leaders owe it to explain them what the context is. And it's amazing how many great ideas we've got. Oh, I didn't know that's what you need for. How about if we do it this way instead? I can do it 10 times fast, right?
So being transparent.
Yep.
Love it. Now, Hondo, I ask her, Janice?
Sorry, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, I find when people are afraid to make change, if you can give them small changes where they can see success, and sometimes when people are resistant, if I can give them small successes, they will trust me, and then it's easier to do the big changes rather than coming in like a bulldozer. So if I can ease them into it, and then once they have that trust with me, then they're okay to make the bigger changes.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I try and change. I try and live about 5 years ahead of the organization. Because if I can change an organization, the most I found is about 15 to 20% a year, unless there's some burning platform or existential threat. But I can change, 10, 15, 20% of an organization every year. And if you have a kind of 5-year vision and can do that, in 5 years, you can completely transform an organization without it feeling like it's, to your point, Janice, this big bulldozer kind of thing. It's 1,000 million little things all put together with a long-term vision.
Agreed. I mean, so when we were talking beforehand where I had worked with the Pentagon on the Intrepid, so it was easy to accomplish a project with the Pentagon and the Intrepid because I had worked with them on the Data and Aviation Center. And since I had worked with them on that project, built the trust with the team at the Pentagon, I was then able to convince them why they should do the same thing at the Intrepid, which was more radical because it was going to be withholding the space shuttle, because we had already built that trust at the Data and Aviation Center. So for me, that at least that has worked. Is I have to build that in first, because otherwise, if I just go in and say, okay, I need you to withhold a space shuttle if they don't make a museum accessible for people with hearing loss, it's like, okay, well, like, where are you coming from?
Right.
Yeah, who are you, lady?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true because people like to work with people who they know, like, and trust. And if you cannot build that foundation first, you cannot come in with an ask.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have people need to know, like, and trust you before you ever ask for a thing. And that takes time to earn all that. That really does. So Janice, your point is spot on.
Yeah, I find as a senior leader, if you get caught up in the work, you get caught up micromanaging. And one of the things I tell myself and other leaders are you doing the things only you can do? Yeah. There's certain things only the person in say my position can do. There's a lot of things I'd love to do. I'm a program manager. I would love to go help manage some program, but that's not what I can only do. And some of the things you can only do as a senior leader is create these strategic relationships before you need them, right? Because I think at a senior level of leadership, your job isn't to play the game, it's to change the game, right? And the only way you're going to change the game is if you create these strategic relationships. You open up new opportunities to put, one and one together to get three. Other folks aren't going to be able to create those relationships or create the culture that incentivizes that. But you won't get there if all your time spent micromanaging or getting caught up in the work.
So true. Hondo, we are almost out of time, and we cannot finish up before we have a little show and tell.
What do you want me to show?
So I always ask special guests, show us something from your world, right? Because we're not just here to talk about what high achievers do. We're also here to teach and to learn. And we learn from each other quite a bit. And there's things from your world that we can learn from. So I hear you have some interesting things for show and tell,
I don't know if you guys,
which I don't have around me. So
yeah, let's see. Can you see this? Let's see if let's see. Can you guys see this here? Jen has probably seen this before. So this was we're having a trouble communicating to our special ops teams all around the world. And so we actually built these satellites. This is an actual satellite. We had 17 of these up on orbit. This is actual size, radically affordable, about $50,000 a piece. And so that our special operators around the world, if they had to send a little signal and had to get a message out, we would be able to pick them up. We did this pretty rapidly over a year or two period. And so if you look up in the sky with really good eyes, you might see these things flying around. So maybe that's a little show and tell piece for today. Does that
I love it.
Show and tell, Ruth?
That works because, I don't have that laying around the house. So Jenna said she saw one of them once.
In French Guiana, because they send up satellites from French Guiana, at least in France.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was there for a rocket launch when Saudi Arabia was setting up a satellite.
Awesome.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Hondo, any parting words for us before we do our wrap up?
No, I think one just thanks again. I've learned a lot even today, and in this session. So it's always remarkable to talk to remarkable people and have honest dialogue. Again, this isn't easy stuff. If it was already done, somebody would already do it. And if we can keep up that curiosity, humility, and boldness, I think we can move forward in whatever thing we're doing, at whatever rank we're at whatever seniority and whatever function we are. And the more we can leverage diversity, whether that's diversity in who we are, how we think, who we know, what do we know, and apply that diversity to the hard problems, whether it's in the medical field and national security and agriculture and climate, whatever it is. What I have found is the more diverse we can be in our approach in our team, and the more open and safe we can create the culture, the faster we're going to get to the ideas we're going to need to solve all the really hard problems that are out there. And there are plenty of them out there. But I think we're seeing that become more the mainstream than the exception. We got a long way to go. And I thank you for this program and inspiring others to learn from each other and bring diversity to really allow us to open up the possibilities to solve these hard problems.
Thank you. And I've heard your story before, but there's certain things that really resonate with me. And I think what really hit home today is that there's nothing really new under the sun. It's all about seeing different things. And as you said, poaching them, right? Completely different ideas, but figuring out how to take these different ideas and combine them to create something completely new, and then figuring out how to scale it. That was the number one thing for me, which I really, really enjoyed hearing. So thank you. Hondo, if people wanted to hear more about you, where can they find you? Not to write complaints, not to, anything like that, but to tell you how awesome you are today.
Yeah, give me suggestions on how to get better. So LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find me and the safest way to find me. But, I guess I'll end with this. If we can work together to vision the possible futures, right? Build scalable platforms and cultures to try it, and then really experiment together, I think we can do amazing things. And I think this program you've got is key in all three of those things. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to be with you and learn from you and everybody else here on the awesome team you've got.
Thank you. And we are going to hear more about your story. You are one of the extreme high achievers who is being featured in my upcoming book, The Success Factor. So you can hear more about Hondo's story. Now, everyone else, where can people hear more about you? Dr. Bruce Wiley.
Yes, I don't have a satellite, but I do have a stuffed avocado here. So, yes, you can reach me. If you Google Bruce Wiley, you can reach me. Make sure you include the Y because rumor has it there's someone else named Bruce Lee. You can do Bruce Wiley Forbes to read my stuff on Forbes. BruceWiley.com is my website, and at Bruce_Y_Lee is my Twitter.
Beautiful. Thank you. And now you know what your challenge is for the next article, right?
I believe so.
All righty.
It rhymes with toilet.
Dr. Allison Escalante.
Well, since we're doing show and tell, not to disappoint Ruth, this is Skittles. And he is 9 weeks old, and he is an adorable little ragdoll kitten. We got him 2 days ago. You can find me at drallisonescalante.com, spelled with one L in the Allison, or shouldStorm.com, which links to all my social media and my articles and all that good stuff.
Thank you. JJ Snow.
This was awesome. So much fun. Hondo, great to see you. Ruth, thanks for hosting. You can find me on LinkedIn at JJ Snow or look me up at the Mentor Project. I'll see you all around.
Love it. Thank you. Janice Lynch.
This was unbelievable. What incredible nuggets of knowledge. Just an incredible hour. So my advocacy work is found at janicelynch.com. And my consulting work is hearingaccess.com.
Thank you. Everyone, I am Dr. Ruth Gotian. I want to first thank Dr. Debbie Heiser, the CEO of the Mentor Project, behind the scenes, making us all look great. We are here with the Mentor Project each and every week, except for the next 2 weeks where we are taking a pause for the Passover holiday. But the audio from this show will appear on a podcast on Sunday. And we are all volunteers here. So please, if you really enjoy it, subscribe, leave us a rating and review so other people can find us. We have a lot of really great guests coming up in April that I think you will really enjoy. I can be found on my website, ruthgotian.com, all the social media. It's just my name. I actually on Friday joined Clubhouse. I feel like I have no friends there, so you can go find me there as well. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. What did I leave out? Forbes article tomorrow. Every Tuesday I have Forbes articles coming out. Tomorrow's an interview with the CEO of Zip Recruiter. So recruiting and submitting resumes and applying for jobs has completely changed since even in the last 10 years. So here how it's done now with the future of work. That'll be coming out tomorrow morning. We have lots of great stuff planned for you. Make sure to subscribe. Again, leave us a rating and review on the podcast. Come back to see our show again. Bye, everyone.